Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming again and again to HIPAA lectures. I think today is a special day. We will see all the nice photos and nice flowers. And we need a groom here and a bride. It's really one of the best lectures here when we celebrate a lecture about wedding photography. I think it brings some joy, some happiness for people. We will welcome today Christine
Meintjes.
Meintjes. We will have, as usual, a lecture of about 3 hours or almost 3 hours. And we will have 15 minutes in between as a break. It will be for sunset prayer. It will be around 7:15 or 7 till 7:15. For gents, please, you can proceed to the ground floor to pray, and for ladies, to the reception, you can pray there. Don't forget that this lecture is live over our channel in YouTube. Please don't hesitate to share the link for your friends who couldn't make it to come today, and enjoy the lecture. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ola. Thank you so much. Before I start, I just want to say thank you so much for HIPAA for the invitation, and also for Nikon in conjunction with who I'm doing the talk for. It's really a big honor to be here. As you guys know, I'm from South Africa, or hopefully you know now, I'm from South Africa. My husband and I, we were in Germany photographing a wedding, and we flew with Emirates, and it just so happened that we could stop over in Dubai to do this lecture for you guys. So we're very honored to be here. I must admit the 42 degrees is quite intense, but I'm very glad we have air conditioning here. We are not used to that kind of weather in South Africa. So I just wanted to put there, if you guys are on Instagram or on Facebook, if you're taking any pictures, please feel free to share it. Obviously also tag HIPAA. But that is the spelling of my name, and if you don't know how to pronounce it, the easiest way to explain to English people, it's main, like the main character in a story, and keys, like opening a door. So main keys, that's easy, okay? Now everyone knows how to say it. I have had to explain it to many people before. Also, when I do presentations, I'm quite a happy person, and I like to smile, and that's why I think I probably do weddings as a photography, or why I've chosen the genre, because I like to be happy. I think most of us like to be happy. So I'm going to ask you one favor. During the presentation, please don't have the face, okay? Just have the face, because this makes it easier for me to really want to tell you stories and to really interact with you as an audience. So I don't know how many of you have stood in front of people before, but I used to be the girl who sat in the corner, very quiet. I didn't speak to anyone. And more in my career, I had to stand up in front of people and start telling them things about what I do and how I do it. And it was very frightening. It still is. But I've learned that if the audience makes it easier for you, then it's really nice to do the presentation. So let's just all make sure that we are happy here tonight. So before I start the formal presentation, I would like to go back to how I ended up here, how I ended up as a photographer. And it all started, now we've lost that. It all started back in 1998, so we are looking 20 years back from where we are now. And I know I look 16, but I'm not. So I don't have a problem with age, so I'm 34 now, but this was 20 years back. I was 14 years old, and I met a photographer, a local wedding photographer in my town. Her name was Frida, and at that stage, very strange, different history, but I thought I was going to become a model. I have no idea why, but I think all teenagers go through that. And I wanted to get pictures taken of myself, and I met Frida, and she took some pictures of me. But through the session of photo shoot, I realized that being in front of the camera is not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be behind the camera. And I'm sure many of you guys have also realized that being behind the camera is much nicer than being in front of the camera. So I started assisting her on weekends. She invited me to be her assistant. And I think today, I don't know here in Dubai how it works, but back in South Africa, and I know around the world, there's something called second shooters. So these are people that go to weddings, and they're not the main photographer, but they also take pictures. At that stage, there was nothing like second shooters. It was the assistant who does only all the not so nice work, you know, changing the cameras, changing the film, because we were still shooting on film back then. And I was not allowed to take one photograph for 5 years. My job was to carry the bags, to change the lenses, and to change the film. And that was my job. And looking back, I realized how much I learned by not taking pictures, because I actually had to observe, and I had to look at my environment, and I had to learn how to work with people, because weddings have a lot of people, and you have to learn how to work with them. So today, you guys are very lucky, because back then when I studied and when I started my career, there was nothing like Instagram and, you know, all the YouTube channels that you have access to now, or all the amazing blogs that you can learn from. I'll just continue. You guys can fix it. So there we go. We're back. I went to university and I studied visual communication, which is more like graphic design. And there was no real good photography schools in South Africa. My biggest dream was to go to the United States and to actually study there at a photography school. But it was way beyond what we could ever afford, so I didn't do that. But I was very lucky to meet Frida at that stage, and she taught me a lot about weddings. And in 2007, after I studied and finished my degree, I started Meintjes Photography as my own professional photography studio in 2007. So it's been almost 12 years now. Most of my work and the things that I will show today is from a Western perspective. So I do know that weddings are different all around the world. But in South Africa, we're very lucky that we still have a very strong, established culture that we really value weddings and we value marriage, which is good for me from a business point of view because we have a lot of weddings and the wedding space is quite a big business. And also, I'm very lucky to be living in South Africa in Cape Town. Have any of you guys been to Cape Town before? Who's been to Cape Town? Okay, you all have to come. It's a beautiful country. It's not 42 degrees outside. And we have amazing food and amazing locations. And the great thing about Cape Town is that it's actually quite an international place. We have a lot of international people visiting. And most of my clients, even though I'm living in Cape Town, is not from South Africa. So 99% of my clients are from all over the world, Singapore, Germany, everywhere all over the world. And I always say I'm a destination photographer that lives in the destination. So I don't have to travel and be on flights every week. I actually live there. And I drive 10 minutes to one of the most beautiful locations. I take the pictures of the wedding, and I sleep in my own bed tonight, which is great. So the one thing about weddings is that it's the same. If I'm looking at a Western perspective again, it's quite the same thing over and over, right? You have the bride, you have the groom. It's the same system that you're going to do over and over. So the more you do it, the easier it becomes. But the one thing that is very different is the couple. And that is what makes every wedding for me personally different. A lot of people have asked me, oh my goodness, you've shot 400 weddings. Aren't you bored of shooting weddings? And I can never say that I get bored because every single wedding for me is different. It becomes easier because it's the same stress you have to go through every time. But the couple is different. The way they are with each other, the things that are important to them on the wedding day, all of those things are different. And for me, the main purpose when I'm photographing a wedding is not to take the best portfolio picture. That is my own philosophy. Some photographers might have that idea that when they go to a wedding, their main aim is to get one amazing picture that they can, blow up really big and print. For me, that is not the aim. For me, the aim is to make sure that every single picture I take on that wedding and I present to the couple is telling their story. So for me, I feel like I'm winning when I give them the album and they go through the album and they can actually tell me that they feel like they are reliving the whole day. Many times a wedding is so chaotic and there's so many things happening. And remember, the couple, the bride and the groom, they cannot experience every single thing that's happening. They cannot speak to every single person at the wedding. But you as the photographer, or you as your photography team, have the opportunity to photograph all those little aspects of the day, whether it's people making music, or whether it's the food, or whether it's the bridesmaids laughing in the corner while something else is happening. If you can capture all of that, because when I'm photographing, I'm the main photographer, and my husband Ian, he shoots with me, and I will normally be closer to the couple, and he'll be shooting wider angles. When we present the album, I want them to feel like they are experiencing the whole day. And that, for me, is winning in wedding photography. So my world might be very different, and what I'm going to show you today, as I said, it's from a Western perspective. It could be very different to where you're coming from or where you originate from. But I really hope that the insights and the stories that I'm going to tell you will help you to be inspired, first of all, for your photography, and also, secondly, that you will feel like you can think a little bit different about what you do and how you do it. Because for me, it's always been very important to think about what I do, not just to do it. So firstly, I want to ask you, why are weddings so difficult? Say again? Money. Okay, that's one. I think weddings are difficult because any other answers? Why are weddings difficult? Huh? You can't repeat a moment. You only have one chance, and you can't reshoot it. You can't tell them, okay, let's just redo that. Walking down the aisle or with first kiss. Okay, what else? People are stressed, and this is very true. The mother is stressed, the auntie is stressed, everyone is stressed, and you are stressed, and that's just chaos. Things like the weather. You can't control the weather. If you arrive on a wedding day and they've planned everything to be outside, and it starts pouring with rain. Okay, I don't think in Dubai it ever rains, but in South Africa it rains a lot. And you can come to this beautiful location and it's just rain. What do? Okay, different cultures. Even though you're a wedding photographer, you might be shooting different cultured weddings, and that means you need to know how it works. Things like the lighting. You have no control over what the space looks like. You might arrive at a hotel and they are putting down all the lights and they only have little candles. I always tell my couples, candles is not light. If you want the candlelight dinner, we have to make a plan, because that is not going to create beautiful pictures. Sorry? Colored rooftop. Or a colored carpet, a red carpet, and it's making this different color tones on the pictures. That's very, very difficult. So I believe out of all the genres of photography, wedding photography is one of the most difficult. And the reason why I say that is we covered the one, it says uncontrollable conditions. You are not in control of most of what is happening at that day. So that is why you as a wedding photographer have to come prepared. You have to know how to control the little bit that you can control. And that is yourself and the camera gear or the tools that you're going to use. And it's very different from the kind of shoots we do, let's say, for instance, advertising or fashion photography, because there everything is controlled. You have a stylist, you have the perfect lighting, you have the perfect models. If the models don't look right, you have someone that's going to fix the makeup. By the time that the bride is down the aisle and she's cried and the makeup is all over here, you don't have the chance to redo the makeup. So I always carry things like, I have lipstick, I have a few basic things to just, touch up the face. it's the kind of things you have to think about that has nothing to do with photography. And you are the stylist. You are the lighting technician. You are the director. Okay? You are all those roles in one. And within all the chaos happening, you have to stay very calm and very nice and make sure that people feel like you are in control. Because if the client starts feeling that you're out of control and that you're not in control, you have a problem. Okay? So at least seem like you're in control, even if you're not. Okay. Secondly, I think it's very difficult to shoot weddings because of all the genres of photography that is incorporated within wedding photography. You have to shoot portraits. You have to be able to shoot fashion. You have to be able to shoot food, close-up macros of the rings. You have to be able to work with big groups of people. You have to be able to work and do really good documentary photography without people knowing that you're there. So it's a lot of genres all in one. And this makes weddings very complicated. Okay, so my philosophy in life has always been take things back to the basics. Okay? If things get complicated and we overcomplicate things and it makes us stress, then I believe let's take it back to the basics. Because if you can do the basics well, if you can do the simple things in life well, you will have good results. Do we agree? Okay. So we're going to go back to the basics. When I look at wedding photography, I see two areas. Actually 4 areas, and they go together 2-2 in pairs. Firstly, I look at the artist. That's the people sitting in front of me, hopefully. Okay. You are the person that's going to look at this wedding, and you are going to capture it in a way that you feel is the best way possible. And most of the time, as an artist, we express ourselves. You guys have probably realized that when you look through a camera, it's your eyes looking at the picture. And that is why each one of us, we are different. We look at things differently. If I give each one of you a camera today, and I stand here in the middle, I promise you each picture will look a little bit different. Even though we have the same lighting, we have the same model, just simple things that I've realized is even my height determines the pictures I take. If I was a foot longer, my photos will be different. So a lot of times my photos are actually from below because my clients are so tall. So I've learned how to stand on things and, stand on a chair, or because I don't want to take pictures from here. This is not a flattering position. Okay, better to take pictures from above. That's a better perspective. So firstly, we have the artist. And then with the artist, you cannot be an artist if you don't have tools. A painter cannot paint if they don't have paint and brushes. Okay? So you need tools. And you need to know how to use them. Not just how to use them, but what to use. Then there's 2 other aspects, and that is the business side. Now, many photographers might not want to run it as a business. They might just do it as a hobby or do it for fun. For me, this is my income, and this is a business that I run. And the reason why I used photography to build a business is because I want to do it forever. Photography equipment is expensive. Okay, so somewhere we have to make money to buy new gear. So I've decided to build a business around it so that I can keep the doors open and that I can keep doing what I love. But you cannot build a business if you don't have clients. Okay, you might think you have a business if you have a business card. But if you don't have clients, you don't have a business. Okay, so it's very important that we make sure that the artist has tools to use and that they can use them well. But also that if you want to keep the doors open, that you will build a business that has clients that can help you keep the doors open. So that for me is the very simple way of looking at wedding photography and how I approach it. So through this presentation, we're going to look at those 4 aspects, which I think are quite simple, but I'm going to show you examples of my work and how this concept and philosophy works through my photography business. I want you guys, I know that at the end of the presentation there will be time for question and answer. So if you have any questions, please feel free to just write it down. And I will try and answer all the questions you have. I might not have the answer, but I will try my best. And if there's anything in the presentation that you have questions about, please feel free to stop me. I have a tendency to speak very fast. I try to speak slower so that people can understand. So please feel free, if you don't understand something, put up your hand and we can discuss it again. Okay. So let's start with the artist, the photographer. How do you actually become an artist? How do you become a photographer? I believe you need to learn two things. You need to learn how to see, what the environment looks like. You need to understand and see how people work. Because with weddings, there's a lot of different personalities. The mother of the bride, the groom's mother, all the different aunties. Everyone has something that they want from you. And you need to learn how to manage that. You need to learn not to be rude, but how to manage those people in a professional way so that they get what they want, but also that you can give them what you need to give them as a photographer. And you also need to learn how to create. So firstly, if you cannot see, you cannot create. But we're going to try and talk, or we're going to do both of these. So through history, there's obviously been different artists all across the world. And I think I'm going to say, I think it's very true if I would show you 10 different very well-known artists all over the world on the screen. Not all of you will like their work. Okay? So we do not always like every artist's work, but we can still learn from every specific person. So how do you learn how to see? I think as a photographer, it's quite difficult because it's the technical side of it is not that easy. It's not easy to go onto a shoot for the first time, take your camera, know how to put the settings, etc. But what I do when I go on a shoot with a couple for the first time, I might have never met them. The first thing I do is I start talking to them. I ask them who they are, what they do. And through talking to them, I start shooting. Because I want them to talk to me and be happy and not just have a camera in their face telling them, no, do this, stand there, don't do that, don't look like this. Because that's very awkward. None of us like that. How would you feel if I put you in the middle here and I have a camera in your face and I say, no, that doesn't look good. No, do that. None of us like that. It actually feels very awkward and you won't get great pictures. But when you are working with a client and you deal with them as human beings, okay, not as an object, and you start talking to them, people, they ease up, they become human, and it's much easier to work with them to get natural portraits. Sometimes you actually have to do really silly things to get the shot, and this is while I'm working with a client and talking to them, I'm doing two things. I'm working with the human side and the person, and I'm talking to them, but I'm also looking for opportunities for great pictures. So while we're on the beach, I might be taking 3, 4, 5 photos that is not perfect, it's not great, and I wouldn't give it to them because the lighting might still be not great. You know, I'm waiting for the sun to set to get that perfect shot. But I'm looking for opportunities, and with this specific shot, I'm actually lying on my reflector because the sand is very wet. And I saw this little puddle, and I asked the lady to walk in there, and I took photos from different perspectives, from high and low, and as I started going down, I saw that the water was actually creating a beautiful effect. And I was doing a photo shoot for a family. The father died, and it was the mother with the children. And after I got the shot right here, playing around, talking to her, not letting her stand there for half an hour while I'm figuring out all the technical things. I'm constantly talking to her while I'm doing all of this. I realized that this is the shot that's going to tell the story. And I asked all of them to walk across the water. And I mean, there's so much water, but it looks like they're actually walking on water. And that's how I got that shot. You have to do things like for you to learn how to see, you actually have to go to places that you wouldn't normally go. You have to go very low, very high or very low. If you are going to take all your photos from this angle, there will never be something that I almost want to say that is different to the previous picture, because everything is going to be from here. So when I'm photographing even something like the table settings or the flowers, I'm always trying to shoot from different angles to get that shot. So here I'm in the tree. This is what we call the human tripod. I'm quite short and we don't always have a chair, so that's where Ian comes in to get that shot. Again, lying on the floor, and those people behind me think I'm crazy, but this is the picture I wanted. Okay? So when you see this photo, you don't know the story behind it. But if I show you this, it makes sense. Now you know how I got it. Okay? I need to do all these crazy things to get those pictures. At weddings, you have to walk around in the room and look at what different kind of light you can use, because most of the time when you enter into a hotel room, the lighting isn't great. So this shot is actually taken in a mirror. Can you guys see how it's actually a reflection in a mirror? They didn't know I'm taking this picture. This is the bridesmaid helping the bride getting ready. And I saw that happen, and this is more photojournalistic picture. So it tells the story in a way that wouldn't have been told if I asked him to stand perfectly, look at me, smile. You know, it's not the same. This is a real moment in time. The best moments for me is not always to focus on the bride or the groom, but also to look around the room and to be very aware as an artist of what is happening and where moments are that you can capture. So for instance, the bride is actually getting her makeup done. You can actually see, I've got this little fancy thing here. There we go. So the bride is actually getting her makeup done. That is the makeup artist's arm. Now, yes, that's not a perfect shot in terms of we've got that in. If I planned the shot, I wouldn't have done it like that. But this is 1 millisecond. I have to get this photo because they are talking and she's laughing about something. I don't know what it is. But this is a beautiful picture for the bride of her best friend. So I'm not just looking at all the things that I would say, you know, in all the wedding magazines, they always give you the list of the rings, the dress, the bride, walking down the aisle, the first kiss. I don't look at only that. I look at things like this, which is not prescribed. And at the next wedding, I might not get a shot like this because it didn't happen. But I'm always looking for those kind of moments. This is an interesting story. We did a wedding at a wine farm. The bride came to the wedding or to the ceremony before the guests, and she waited in the big space, the wine cellar, and she was getting ready in there with her sisters. And I couldn't find anything to take pictures of the shoes. So I found this tray. It's actually a tray that they carry drinks around with, but it's got a mirror. And I used that to put the shoes on, and it was a beautiful picture because I got the reflection. And I was turning around. I think I was changing a lens or something, and they found it, and I think they used it or thought it was a mirror. And they picked it up, and she was cleaning it. There's her hand. But in that moment, I didn't tell them what to do. It's her sister standing behind, and she's actually cleaning it, but it looks like she's touching, almost like, you know, her face. And I just thought I really like this photograph. There are things that will happen at weddings that tells the story. It's not the most perfect picture. It's not the one that's going to win an award, but it tells the story of the bride getting ready at her parents' home, and everyone is setting up the wedding outside, and they are looking out of the window. They're not even dressed yet, and they are looking and they're talking about, oh, wow, look at that's happening. You know, they've already planned this wedding for a year, and they're looking at everything happening, and I got that picture. Now, as I said, it's not going to win an award, but it's going to be perfect for the album to tell the story of how the day progressed. As an artist, I prefer to go to the 50 millimeter. This is my favorite lens of all time. I can do everything on the 50 millimeter. 1.4 is my absolute favorite, so I normally shoot between 1.4 and 2.2. Almost every shot you will see here is on those settings. So this is my natural go-to. As an artist, I always look close up. I see things close up. And at this wedding, they had this beautiful orchestra and I got this picture. But I realized that if I give the client that photo, it will tell the story of the man playing in this orchestra and maybe a few other people, but they won't see this. So I had to stand back, put on the 35 millimeter, and make sure I get the whole perspective to tell the whole story. Remember, as an artist, you have the power to tell the story. So what you are using and how you are creating is actually influencing what the people will remember. Okay, so have you guys realized that very little of us can remember our whole history? Can you remember when you were 14 years old, or when you were 18 years old, or every single holiday you ever went on? Can you remember all the details, where you ate, etc., etc.? You can't. But what can you remember? The stuff you took pictures of. You can't really remember it. The picture is reminding you that that happened. So as a photographer, you have to remember, as an artist, you have the power to tell that story. So I feel I'm only telling half the story if I give them that. I also have to make sure that I give them that. The same here. This is a couple, and before you guys say they don't have heads, I know. I tend to shoot a lot like this. It's natural for me. I love telling stories without always all the details in it. And I'm known for that kind of way of shooting, but it's not necessarily the only pictures I will give them. I will make sure that they get portraits with faces in, etc. But we were walking, this is on a safari in the north of South Africa in the bush, and they were walking, and her dress was flowing. There was a little bit of a breeze, and I absolutely loved this photo, and I got this picture, and I realized that there was a beautiful tree under where they stood, and I asked them to stay there, and I walked back. It took about 15, 20 minutes. No, I'm joking. No, I'm lying. It felt like that. Because I don't like it if my couple are standing and waiting for me, because it becomes awkward. They're like, am I doing it right? Do they ask that to you? You know, like, whenever you leave them, if you don't talk to them within 10 or 20 seconds, they ask you, is this right? Should I smile? Oh, and that starts becoming awkward. So when they were just walking, I just love how natural it is. So I walked back, and this was the shot that I felt told them, as a couple that came from America to come and have a safari in South Africa, this is the story they want to remember of visiting Africa. So as an artist, okay, this for me is a Christine Meintjes picture. I love to give my clients this kind of picture. But as a wedding photographer, I have a responsibility to not just create art, but also to make sure that the art I do give them is something that they can look back and remember their whole story. There are certain shots that I've done over and over and over, and I think I've mastered it now, and that's something with a veil. I absolutely love working with a veil. In the South African wedding context, the veil has a lot of significance, and I always love putting a bride under the veil and doing some different photographs, but I always try and do it a little bit different. So I'm constantly, as an artist, also experimenting. So don't get stuck in the way you do things over and over, even if it's a veil shot. Maybe change it up a little bit, make it really blurry, focus on the veil, or something like this, okay? All three of them are veil pictures, but they all a little bit different. As a photographer, as I said, very difficult for me to make sure that I get wide angle and landscape photos. My go-to is portrait. Portrait 50 millimeter, 2.2, 1.8. Okay, that's my go-to. But as I'm photographing, I always have to look at the whole environment. I was photographing the bride. She was getting ready, and when I turned around, literally here behind me, this was happening. This is her two children. And I was like, this is a Vogue moment. Okay, this guy is too cool. I need to make sure I get a picture of this. And out of the whole wedding, this is one of my favorite pictures. This is the kind of locations we have in South Africa. And again, I have to shoot landscape to make sure I get all those angles. This specific photograph, I only got it right, or I feel I got it right, because I've stood many times at the bottom of the staircase shooting like this, and the picture was horrible. So because of trial and error and because of trying different things and not being scared of messing it up, especially now with digital, purist photographers, please forgive me. But that for me is you have to try things, different things all the time. And sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't. And this for me is why that shot's working. As an artist, you also learn how to be at the right place at the right time. Because if I was on the other side of them, down the aisle, which is the more traditional place to be as a wedding photographer, I wouldn't get this moment. This is him exchanging the rings and the priest on the left, and I just think you can just see how happy they are. 50 millimeter, yes. I think it's 2.2. That's what I normally go to. Or something like this. You know, she starts, the tear starts going down her cheek, and he just wiped it. And if I was on the other side, I wouldn't get it. So what Ian and I normally do, we always try and be opposite from each other on the ceremony. If I'm in the front, he's at the back, and if I'm at the back, he's in the front. So if I'm on a close-up, he's always on a wide angle. So we try and cover all the angles. This is one of the most beautiful moments for me of all my wedding photography I've ever done. It was the first time the father saw his daughter as a bride before she walks down the aisle. And she lost her mother from a very young age, so she only had one parent. And he walked in, the dad, and he just gave her a hug, and I thought it was such a beautiful moment. But this, I had 3 or 4 seconds for, maybe 1 second. I cannot repose that emotion that's happening there. So you have to be ready. As an artist, we've now spoken quite a lot about the seeing, but we also have to speak about the light. Okay, how to use light. Now, again, I go back to the basics. For me, natural light is the go-to. And then if I do need other lighting, I will use a reflector to reflect. My go-to is a sunbounce reflector, that's my favorite. Or I will use constant LED lighting, and I use a roto light. But most of the time, I will go for natural light. Now, when you walk into a hotel room or into a place where they're getting dressed, most of the time there will be a window, I hope. So I normally tend to go close to the window and I shoot everything there, because the further you move away from the window, the darker it gets. And very important, if you don't want mixture of color temperatures, make sure you're switching off the lights in the hotel room. People always laugh at me because they always say like, no, but I thought you said you need light. I'm like, yeah, I need light, not light, because this is creating all kind of weird shadows. So I normally tend to go to windows. I'm just going to show you a few examples. Ola, how am I doing for time? Am I fine till 7? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is a side light window shot. So the window is on this side. I'm going to show you. The window is over here. Okay, she had this beautiful detail on her back, and I had a reflector over here. So Ian is standing with a reflector, and we're using the natural light to bounce it from there back into her back to just make sure that we don't have a too dark space over here. Okay, again, 50 millimeter. The same bride just turned around, and to make sure I don't have too harsh shadows over here, you will see in most of my work, I don't like very harsh shadows. You will see here again, we had a reflector. Sometimes you will have to edit a little bit. You will have to bring it into Lightroom and do some work on it if it's a little bit too dark. But generally, this is a very good setup, and it works very well. Very similar here. Again, I like to, and I tend to overexpose a lot of my images. It's not for everyone. A lot of people will look at this and go, no, this is wrong. You have to set up 10 lights and do all that kind of stuff. At a wedding, I don't have time to do that. I have, with this bride, 10 minutes to get all her portraits. Okay, I need to get a minimum of 10 to 20 pictures that I can deliver to her within 10 minutes. So my setups are very simple. This is actually a very good friend of ours, and I took this picture in the moment she walked from the room to the car to go to the wedding, because we didn't have time to actually do the photos. And She literally walked. I said, just stand still for a second. I got the picture and she walked. So I didn't have time to set it up, everything. I had to make sure my camera is on the right settings, etc. I'm just going to show you a few more. Also, light coming in from the side over there, a reflector on this side. This is quite a very unusual shot for me because of the harsh shadows. So here we've got way more shadows over here and lighter. But I just felt like this dress was so flowy and so soft. I wanted to capture it. But this is the shot of the bride in a full-length dress. So I also tend to shoot a lot into light, which is quite difficult, but something that if you master it, you'll love it. Because there's never any harsh shadows on them. If you were in this situation, a lot of people would go and stand outside and they will turn the bride to them so that the light is on them. I don't like that because there's a lot of harsh shadows happening into a face, where this is not the situation. The same is happening here. I'm shooting into the light with a reflector in the front. Again, people's eyes are open. They're not like, standing there because the sun is in their face and they can't see you, and very nice soft shadows. So it works quite well from, I would say, obviously when the sun is setting, it's right behind them, so that's difficult. Here it's a little bit more like midday. Also, again, shooting into the light. This is more sunset. And all available light, nothing else. Anything I showed you here, available light only. Okay, so something like, yes. Oh, okay, I'll stand here. I won't touch it. Okay, I will stay here, sorry. So this is only available light. No extra lighting setups, nothing. Okay. This shot was quite, this was not my favorite, but I had 10 minutes with the bride. Sometimes the clients are very nice and they say, we want to do everything the way you want to do it to get the best pictures. That is obviously amazing because you can construct the whole day in the way that you like. But it can also happen that a couple say, we don't want to do a lot of couple pictures, and this happens a lot with me, with couples. They say, we actually want to just enjoy the day with our friends. We have 10 minutes. Let's get some portraits. Okay, now that's difficult because they have looked through your whole portfolio on your website, and they think, oh, that's what we're going to get for 10 minutes. Okay? Now, that is difficult because, one, you cannot tell them that you can't do it because they booked you because you're a professional. Okay? And secondly, you have to quiet all the voices in your head that's telling you, this is crazy, I can't do this, and start panicking, okay, and sweating and being all weird. So with this specific shot, I looked at the environment. I said, okay, we have 10 minutes. Ian knows what to do. Okay, make sure when you're working with people, they know what to do. He's got the reflector ready. He knows where to stand. He knows the sun is, the sun is over there. Yeah, the sun is over there. Ian's with a reflector here. I said to her, okay, great, go walk into the field for me, and I'm shooting. And I'm talking to her. I'm telling her, turn around, look at me, over your shoulder. Okay, look at me, look back, go forward. 10 minutes, I got 40 pictures. Okay, but it's because I'm prepared and I know what I'm doing. So this is not my favorite. As an artist, I don't want to say I love the lighting because it's a little bit too harsh for me. You can see it's still quite high, the sun. You can see it there. But still, it's a good photo. This is more favorable for me because it's a little bit softer. But again, I only have limited time. Working with a reflector, okay? This is my sister, Lydia, and that's me. And this is her firstborn, okay? We had a little room like this with a window, and I was like, great, let's get some portraits. And she has to be in line with the camera, because if she's over there, he's looking down. And I need him to look into the camera, okay? So this is what, I wouldn't do this with clients, but it's my sister, so it's okay. So I'm like, make sure you get his face looking at the camera. And this is what we got. Okay, so if he didn't look into the camera like that, if his eyes was closed, it would be a completely different picture. Okay, so the whole setup is very important. Not just one aspect, not just the light, not just the couple or the person. I know it's a wedding. We're talking about weddings, but you know this happens after wedding, so okay. So this is the reflector I normally work with. Always have someone holding it for me. If you're at a wedding and you don't have, or if you're at a shoot and you don't have someone to help you, ask someone on the shoot, maybe a bridesmaid or groomsman. And like I said earlier, we're going back now from the natural, beautiful daylight to night, kind of only candles on the tables, very soft candle lit. There's some lights on in the background. Now my go-to is making these pictures black and white because I don't like the yellow, like, you know, tungsten kind of, or sometimes they get too warm. So I will give the clients color photos, but I feel like the emotion is captured more when you strip it away and you just make it black and white. Okay, so candle lit is difficult, but make sure the light is coming into their faces. Sometimes you have to add a flash. So here I'm using flash photography. This is a Jewish wedding and they like, you know, dancing and going crazy stuff. But then you might have to sometimes set up lights. So this is where it was a cellar. It's very, very dark. Without the lights, it would be pitch dark. And I couldn't do only one flash because then the sides won't be lit. So I have got two lights. I've got one light over here, one light over there. It's an LED constant light. So what I love about the rotor lights is that they actually, you can color temperature, or you can change the color temperature, and you can also change the strength of the lights. So I can set it up, look at the whole situation, make sure I like it, and then I can take the picture. Personally, I'm not a massive fan of flash. I know a lot of my friends are great flash photographers, and they love setting up multiple flashes going off. For me, I run away because it freaks me out completely. So because all the time they don't want to trigger and stuff like that, so probably because I don't know how to use them properly. But this is what I prefer to use if I have to use a light. And it's got a battery, so there's no cables and stuff like that. So that's quite cool. You also don't have to use it on a stand. You can use the handles, and you can. So at this wedding, it was pouring with rain, and it was pitch dark outside. The couple had this vision of getting married under the, or having their first dance under the little lights outside, and 10 minutes before that, it just started pouring with rain. And it was pitch dark, and Ian quickly fetched the rotor light and put it up, and he held it for me, and they had ballerinas dancing around them, and this was her favorite moment of the night, and we had the rotor light, and it lit this whole space, which was pretty cool. And so I'm shooting and moving around as they are dancing, and Ian is moving behind me, and he's just lighting, making sure that the shot is lit. So there's no flash here. The same with this shot. They cut the cake, and I want to light everyone. Obviously, they're a little bit darker because they're a bit further, but Ian is standing here above me with the light. So this is 100% my philosophy. The more you practice, the luckier you get. I did not say this, okay, Gary Player did, but I always use it in my presentations. You guys know who Gary Player is, the famous golf player. Okay, one day someone asked him, how does he get so many good shots on the golf course? And he said, well, it's very easy. The more you practice, the luckier you get. And I 100% believe that's true for photography. The more you go out there, the more you shoot, the more you do it, the easier it's going to become. Okay, don't be scared, guys. Try everything. Sometimes you're there at the shoot and it's not working and you're feeling like, why am I not getting the shots? Why is it not working? And sometimes it's just the moment after that you're going to get the shot. Here, I climbed on a very big wall to get this photo. Because the light wasn't right, I felt like all the pictures weren't working. And as soon as I shot from above, it was working. Okay. And the most important aspect is do not compare yourself to everyone else. Every artist is unique. As soon as you start comparing yourself to other people, you start becoming depressed and you think that you're not good. Okay? Each one of you have something to give. So don't compare yourself to other people. I believe photography should make you happy. Okay? That's probably why all of us started with photography. In some way, it's making you happy as a person, and you should keep it that way. But you need to experiment. You need to go into different angles, different lighting. I went on a off-camera flash workshop. Even if I don't like it, I wanted to see which elements of it I don't like, or why doesn't it work for me. So don't be scared to try different things. This is what I want to feel like when I shoot. Happy. Okay? I want to be enjoyable. And I believe it happens when you find your own way. Okay? You don't start there. You don't start by knowing how to do it. You start by looking at a lot of other people and how they're doing it. But in my story of photography, I learned that all I need is less. I like to strip things away, make the backgrounds very white, take things off the walls, very natural light, soft. Okay, that's how I see the world. Someone else will look at the exact same thing and they would say, I don't like that. I will add lights. I will do this. I will make the shadows harsh, etc. And that's great because that's what makes art amazing, is that there's different kinds of ways to do it. And this philosophy is very true to me and Ian. We like to live a minimalist life. We like things very clean and very simple. And one day I did a photo shoot of a little baby, and he was like lying there. He was like, I think 1 week old or 2 weeks old, and doing all these funny little moves. And then I got this photo, and I think that basically tells you all I need is less. Okay, so I couldn't tell him what to do. I just had to be at the right time at the right place. Okay, so before I continue, I just want to check the time. Is Ola here? Because the next section is going to be difficult if I cut it in half. So, time for a break. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to give you guys a break. I know it's time for evening prayers, and then we'll continue after this. Okay, I'll ask you guys to please be back on the time they asked you guys to be back because we still have a lot to go through. Thank you. Thank you. Hello.
Can I have your Instagram account?
Yes, sure. Let me just quickly switch this off. Ian? Oh, will you switch off? Thank you. Okay. Doen nog eens daai jumping ding. Okay, is everyone back? Okay. Few more minutes. Okay, while we wait for everyone to settle down and come in, at this stage, is everyone still awake? Huh? Okay. Do you understand my English? Okay, I think we're still waiting for a few people. So, okay, what we can do is, if there's any questions, I can answer one question at this stage, just to wait for the other people. If anyone has a question, you can ask it now. No questions. Okay, question. What setting do I use? I use all the settings depending on what the situation needs. So most of the time I try and stay on a low ISO, you know, if there's enough available light. And as I said, I tend to go, my first choice is a 50 millimeter. Yes, if the couple is darker, or if the situation in the in the space needs more light, then obviously you need to push up the ISO. So what you noticed is that there's some noise in my pictures. It will, sorry? Oh, the contrast between. Yeah, I think you, in that situation, if you're using natural light, I will expose for the middle of it. I will never overexpose the white dress so that you lose all the details. You either have to add extra lighting, so maybe a reflector will help, or a flash if you want to use a flash. But when I work with them, I've photographed couples where the one is very light and the one is very dark, and that makes it very difficult because you obviously have both. Yeah. But I normally expose for the middle, in between, and then I do the rest with editing. Yes, in editing in Lightroom. Okay, we're ready. Okay, we're ready. We're full house again. Okay. Okay, guys, so we're still we're still talking about the artist. This is the longest part. But one thing a lot of people ask me is, how do I actually create my own style? How do I become unique? Okay, I want to stand out from the crowd. There's lots of photographers out there. As you can see, the whole room is full of photographers, and out there in the world, there's many more. So how do you actually create your own style? Now, again, as you guys have probably realized, I go back to the basics. For me, it's about the process of getting there. It's not just being there, because you don't start as a master. You don't start where you want to end. Okay, we all start somewhere completely different. And those years of starting out might look very different from where you want to be. But don't be discouraged, okay? If you look at your pictures and you think, oh my goodness, what was I thinking, shooting that kind of way, I have exactly the same. When I look back at my pictures from 20 years ago, it's really bad, you know? But the thing is, we all start somewhere. And that's the part we shouldn't forget. So I'm going to show you a very simple illustration of how I believe we learn as artists or creatives. And learning in general in life happens this way, I believe. And when we go through this process, you will start to get to know yourself better. And somewhere along the lines, you will start to create something that's quite unique, and that's unique to you. So when we start out, we are like a little baby, okay? We don't know everything. We don't know how to put the camera in the perfect settings, etc. So it's like someone teaching you how to draw. They give you a picture like this, and they say, it's very easy. All you have to do is follow the paint by numbers. You guys know paint by numbers, okay? So it's very simple. You have to stay within the lines, and you have to use the number of the color that we've indicated here. So this is basically how we all start. None of us feel like a professional when we shoot like this. This is basically shooting on automatic, okay? The person I used to work for, she used to shoot on P mode, professional. You know, on the camera, it has the setting for professional, okay? So this is shooting in a professional mode. The thing is, when you are there, you don't know that you are not a professional because you think because you are coloring in perfectly, exactly the way the picture tells you to, you think that you are amazing, okay? Which is great because it helps you to go to the next phase, okay? The next phase is you can hold a pencil and you can start drawing something that looks remotely like an animal, okay? But we all know this looks like a child drawing. This is not what they really look like, okay? What a giraffe really looks like. But in some way, you start becoming excited because you can now shoot on aperture mode, okay? You now know how to under and overexpose, okay, on a basic setting. And this is basically the part of our lives where we want to move to the next stage again. And then we start drawing something that looks a little bit more real, like the real deal, okay? Maybe you are now starting to shoot on manual mode. And you actually know what you're doing. Someone doesn't have to give you the paint by numbers, okay? And hopefully, if you continue in this process, if you keep learning and if you keep trying, it will hopefully look a little bit more like this. Now, this is actually a painting. It's not a photograph. So this is where we hope we will get, okay? You cannot go from, you cannot go from here. You cannot go from here to here if you didn't start here. So that's the basic principle. I think as master photographers, or when you start becoming really good in what you're doing, we forget that we all started here. We all started with opening the first time your Nikon box with the first camera, and you're like, how do I put this on? You know, where do I put the battery? We all start there. But hopefully, you will continue in your journey to end here. Now, the thing is, this is the adult version of life, okay? But when do you become an adult? I don't know. It depends on person to person. I think some people are already, in their 80s and they're still not an adult. But you can, let's say in South Africa, we say you become an adult at 21. Okay, so what happens if I say this is the person at 21 in your photography career? What happens between 21 and 80 or 90 or 100? Do you just stay the same? Do you just create the same art over and over? The thing is, we don't see the difference as clearly as going from here to here to here, but it's refining. It's like making it perfect. The masters take months to just draw the grass because they are spending so much time in refining it. So I want to encourage you as an artist that to go through the process, but don't stop when you think, I made it, because you never made it. You can always learn something from someone else, and you can always continue to improve your photography. Still today, when I shoot a wedding, I'm always looking at the pictures very critically, and I think to myself, how can I have done it better? And I ask myself, how can I make my business better every single year? And I hope that I will never be the person that I think, okay, I've now made it. So to illustrate in a very real way my paint by numbers, I have done you the favor of going back into the archives. Okay. So this is a real Christine Meintjes photo. Okay, this was, I think, 18 years ago. It was on film. It was sepia. Okay, sepia, I don't know, very orange. Okay. In South Africa, the style of wedding pictures was if you don't have a suitcase that says just married, you are not a wedding photographer. Okay, that is part of the kit. It's like camera, suitcase. Okay, And she's sitting on the back of a car. It doesn't even make sense. Okay? But this is my paint by numbers. If I didn't shoot this, if I didn't shoot with a flash forward, okay, if you have a friend that shoots with a flash forward, you have to go to him and say, that's not allowed. Okay? If I didn't shoot this kind of pictures, and I didn't try all the editing in the world, desaturating my pictures, which was a big thing at some stage in the photography world, or oversaturating. I mean, this picture quality is so bad because it's so old, so sorry, please forgive me. It's just, the file is like not even a megabyte, I think. Okay, or try and be funny with all the kinds of props that you can get. If I didn't do all those things, I wouldn't be able to do this now. Okay, so I think it's important to remember we all start somewhere and that the process takes time. So now my work is very clean, it's very minimal, it's very simplistic. I try and promote only what I want you to see. I cut out all the rest. This is from 9 different shoots, but it's the same photographer. This is my style now after 20 years, and I hope that in 20 years from now it will even be better. But this is the kind of work I produce now, but I showed you what my photos looked like once. Okay? So we all go through that process. It's not just you that look at your Lightroom or downloaded pictures and you think, oh my goodness, why is it out of focus? Why isn't this working? We all go through that. I would encourage you to, while you're searching for that style and who you are as a photographer, to create something that you're proud of. That for me is the start. When I took that picture that I showed you now, that I now don't want to show to anyone, and if you cannot put that on social media, okay? Oh, it's live stream, okay, it's all over the internet now. Okay, it's to start somewhere where you think, I'm proud of creating this. Now, when I took that picture way back, I was very proud of it. It's like when we look at what we dress in, fashion, okay? If you look at pictures of yourself 10 years ago, are you proud of what you wore? You know, it's the same kind of principle. So start by creating something that you're proud of and just keep learning. You have to respect the process, okay? It doesn't happen overnight. For me, so far, it's taken 20 years to get here. I hope it doesn't take that long for you. But to become a master, you have to do the same thing over and over and over and over. And I wanted to put it there many times, but I thought I won't bore you with that. But it's really about doing the same thing over and over and over and refining and fine-tuning your lighting and the way you use lenses. Now it's become second nature to me, so it's become like way easier. So if I don't have to think about all the tools I'm using, etc., I can interact with the clients more, and it makes it much easier. Which brings us to the tools. Okay, so what do we actually use to create our pictures? Now, I believe that, as I said to you earlier, if you get the basics right, you're going to have good results. Don't start with overcomplicating things for yourself. If you don't understand photography and you don't understand the technical side of things, you don't feel comfortable shooting in manual yet, even though we all want to get there. Now I shoot everything manual. I don't even think about it. It's just become second nature. But I didn't start there. I started with aperture priority. Okay, for years I shot an aperture priority, and I'm not shy to say that, because I use the tools. All the cameras now have such amazing tools. It's actually helping you to think. So I used it until I became better, and then I started moving to the next. I didn't start in shooting 1.8 or 2.2 because all my pictures would be out of focus, because I didn't understand that you actually have to stand still. You know, I was maybe moving, taking pictures, but now I understand that if I want to shoot on that wide aperture, what I need to do. At first, I started shooting on like or 5.6 or whatever, but I looked at the photos and I didn't like the results. I didn't like the fact that it wasn't blurred out. So I asked myself, why isn't it blurred out? And I read up and I learned it's about aperture. So that's the process we go through. So I believe you need to know your equipment very, very well. okay? You need to not just know how to use it, but also what to use in the right situation. So I'm not going to go through my whole kit. It's going to take too much time, but you guys can go to my website. I will share my link to my website. There's a section on my website that says for photographers, and I list my whole kit, exactly every single lens I use, camera, etc. But just from a broad perspective, I shoot on the Nikon D5 and also the 850. And then when I travel, I like to use the 750 because it's quite light. And as I said, my go-to lenses are normally primes. So my 50 millimeter, 35 millimeter, and 85 millimeter. That's what I normally shoot on. I also have some zoom lenses, but as I said, the whole kit is explained on my website. So instead of going through the whole kit, if there is any questions regarding specific equipment, you guys are welcome to ask me afterwards and we can discuss that. Okay. So you need to know what works, and the only way you will know what works is through experience. It's creating environments for yourself that's not easy. Okay? It's very easy to shoot a beautiful girl in the perfect lighting conditions with the perfect dress. That's easy. We can all do that. What's difficult is if the lighting isn't great or you have little time. That's when you need to know your tools so well that you need to know how to use them. I get a lot of people or photographers that come to me and say, we look at your website, we look at your portfolio, and we think everything you shoot is just in perfect conditions because everything is light and white and bright, and you must get brides that only book venues with beautiful light. Well, that's not true. And I'm going to show you such situations that are very difficult that I still created an image that I feel I'm proud to give to my client. So this is the environment I need to shoot in. Okay, this is a real wedding. When I arrive on the location, this is the setup for the reception and the party. The bride is getting her makeup done, and I quickly run there to take a few pictures of the tables. Now, my arrangements with my clients are usually that I go and do all the details of the flowers and everything before people go into the reception, because otherwise you don't get those nice pictures. And I arrived there hoping everything would be done, because that was the arrangement. And I arrive and this is what's happening. Okay? We have very little light in the space. We've got a red carpet that's making a red shine on all the pictures. I have people everywhere setting up the table, so there's nothing that's clean and light and bright. Okay? This is happening. This is happening. And this is how dark the space is I have to shoot in. But this is the pictures I got 5 minutes after I took those pictures I just showed you. Would you say that this is the same environment as this? Okay. So what did I do? Go back to the basics. I go to the window. Let me get my fancy little thing here. I go to the windows over there. Okay. Not over here. This is the dark area. If we go towards the window, that's going to be the best possible option you have. You have to put the odds in your favor. Okay, so go to the closest place. So that's probably going to be that table. I opened that window. I opened that window. Natural light came in. Okay. What I would normally do is I would now shoot wide angles, etc., etc., but I can't do that because I've got all these people moving in the space. So what I did is I went close up. I shot close-ups of all the details, and I would get the wide angles just before the people come in. So already I've got 80% what I need, and then I can get the rest later. How did I get this photo? I shoot into the window light. Okay, so I'm not using the window light to light this. I'm overexposing and shooting from this side, using the window light to create a light, bright, overexposed background. That's how I create whiteness in this space. I'm using a reflector, but I don't have a reflector with me. What am I using as a reflector? White plate. White dinner plate. Okay? There's plates all over the show. There. I pick up the plate, I hold the plate there, I hold the plate there, I get reflection. Okay. Same happening here. Shooting into the light. There you can see the light coming into the window. Using a plate there, using a plate here, reflector. Okay, same situation here. Okay, now this is not the ideal situation. This is not the ideal pictures of the reception, but this is the best I could do in that situation. Saying, oh, I can't do it because it's dark, so I'm just going to tell the client there's no pictures, is not an option. Okay, so this is what I did. While you learn how to use your tools, you will actually learn how to refine your skill, okay, and make it second nature. It needs to seem and feel when you come onto the shoot that it just is. There's no thinking, there's no stressing, there's no planning. It just happens naturally. You go to your bag, you pick up. It's like brushing your teeth in the morning. You don't think about it. You just do it. Okay? That's how it should be when you're on a wedding, because there's way too many other things that you cannot actually control. So this specific wedding here, it's actually become very good friends of mine. They had a wedding in the first week of September. September is, in South Africa, supposed to be spring. It usually still rains a lot, and we still have cold weather. And they booked a beautiful location which had blossom orchards and this gorgeous mountains everywhere. And the morning of the wedding, it was pouring, pouring, pouring with rain. So it was dark, and the whole idea of getting married outside was quite different. Okay? So I arrive in the bridal room, or in the room where she's getting ready, and I see that there's a lot of stress. I can feel the tension. Okay? Now, this is not the time the photographer should go up to them and say, okay, guys, so for the photos, I need you to do this, and I need you to do this. Okay, let's move this, because you're creating more stress. This is the time where you should be in the background. Let them handle what's happening, and you do your job, and that is to create pictures. Now, there was not 1 minute that whole morning for me to get a portrait, because the bride was on the phone all the time with her brother, making arrangements of getting a tent and all that kind of stuff for the wedding. This is the only portrait I took that I really like, that I feel is a portrait I could put in the album. But you would never know that she is on her phone if I didn't tell you. Okay, there she's holding the phone. She's actually listening to what her brother's saying. I walked around the space. I saw a big TV in the background. I saw a window light coming in on the side. Not my ideal lighting, to be honest. I think it's too bright and too dark here, but I mean, I didn't have a choice at that stage. And I saw her walking around, and my job was to look for the perfect portrait. Like as I'm in this space, I'm looking for the perfect portrait. I've got my camera ready in the right settings, and when she looked down like that, without talking, so she looks very relaxed, I got that shot. Okay? And that's what I'm going to add in the album. On the photo shoot, so they got married in the outside. It started pouring with rain, like really like a storm. All the guests went into the reception area, and I realized we have two options now to do the pictures. We can either go and do the pictures in the reception with all the people, which is not going to be creative, artistic kind of photograph. It's going to be group shots. Or I could give them the opportunity to still go into the orchards. But I had only 5 to 10 minutes to take the pictures because they're going to get very wet. So I went to the couple and I said to them, guys, this is the options, A or B. If we go into the orchards, I promise you the photos will be much better, but you need to give me 10 minutes, and then we'll have to make a plan of how to get you dry afterwards. And they said, that's great, you have 10 minutes. So this is what's happening, okay? They're literally blowing away. This is Ian and the makeup artist. And they are supposed to keep me dry, okay? But they can't even keep the umbrellas straight. So I just decided, okay, we don't have time. So they were trying to organize the umbrellas. And I tell the couple, before they got out of the car, I already had my plan of action. So I said, okay, guys, you're going to walk down, you're going to look at me, you're going to turn around, you're going to kiss, you're going to hold hands. And I already had the whole thing in my mind, and I told them what to do. And this is the photos we got in literally 5 to 10 minutes. You can see how wet he is there. There's already drops on his suit. Like water everywhere. But this is the reality of their wedding day. So why try and hide it? Why try and make it perfect by going into a place, stressing yourself out with 10 lights, not having enough space for everything? It's not even your style. This is how I shoot. So I said to them, you booked me for a reason. You want this, so let me give you this. Okay. So sometimes you just have to break the rules and you have to make it your own. It wasn't probably the right thing to let the couple get wet, or it wasn't probably the right thing to shoot all natural light or whatever. But sometimes you just have to break the rules and say, this is how I'm going to do it, and own it and get the shots. So a few of my favorite shots of the year, just a few pictures, like a couple that got married in January. It's actually good friends of Ian. And they were very uncomfortable in front of the camera at first. But as we were working and doing this whole photo shoot, this moment happened. And yes, I don't even have his whole head in, so maybe it's wrong according to photography. But I love this photo because it tells me the story of the couple. It tells me a story of their love. Walking in a garden, okay? Available light only. Reflector in the front. Okay, harsh, harsh, harsh sunlight. A lot of times photographers think if you shoot natural light, you can only shoot in soft light, so you have to wait for that last minutes of light. It's not true. You can create things like this. Being there for the moment. Walking out of the church. This is happening between moments. This is happening between the photo shoot. She's walking towards somewhere, but the detail of this dress, she was planning months what this dress should look like. So why should I only get the dress from the front? You know, and this is, I didn't ask her to pose this. This is a friend holding her dress. So I'm always looking for the moments in between. This was at the end of the photo shoot. We're already done with the photos, already have all the pictures I need. But we're walking and we're just trying different things. And she starts playing with a veil. And I said, okay, that's going to work. Walk towards me. And she's just like playing with a veil. Also, only available light. And I just love how you can just see like that one eye there. This is the same couple in the sunset light in a beautiful garden in Stellenbosch. And I love how the light is lighting the veil there. But this is a very good example, I think, of the darkened light we spoke earlier about. It's very dark. His suit is dark. It's quite dark over there, so we've got a lot of shadows. And yes, that is probably too overexposed. But I expose for the middle so that I can still get the details on the dress, so it's not completely overexposed. But you will lose some detail, and you will have complete darkness in certain situations. But for me, if there's a mid-ground, I think it works well. Again, being in the right place at the right time. I didn't ask them to kiss, and that was in the ceremony when he said something. I don't know what he said. Okay, so that for me is creating artistic wedding photography or wedding photos. So we talked about the artist and we talked about the tools, but I want to just, I know this is the part that photographers are not excited about, or the artists are not excited about normally, is the business side of things. But as I said to you earlier, there's a reason why I think the business side is very, very important. If you want to do this for a living, you are going to have to build a business around it. And you're going to have to keep the doors open, so you're going to have to find clients. So the only thought I actually want to leave with you with this is that if you really want to run a business that works, okay, you have to fire yourself as the artist and hire yourself as the CEO. Okay, I'll just let that sink in for a moment. Okay, so the artist now works for the CEO. Okay, and that changed my life when I read this. This is from a book called The E-Myth Revisited. Completely changed my life. And I realized that the artist in me always wants to create and be all out there and buy new equipment all the time because I need it, you know. Can't get that shot if I don't have that lens and that lens and that lens. But I realized that the artist is going to make this business bankrupt because she does not want systems. She does not want to hear that there's a deadline. Okay? So it was very important for me to learn that sometimes the artist needs to sit a little bit in the background and the CEO needs to take over. Okay? That does not mean that everything becomes about money or business, etc. All I'm trying to say is you need to start thinking about having systems in place and having the contracts in place, because people want to hire you as a professional. A professional photographer has a contract with their clients. A professional photographer has a timeline of when the pictures will be finished. A professional photographer has a system of how to back up her pictures. I can see some people smiling in the audience, so I think I'm talking to the right crowd. Okay, my question to you is, how much time have you spent learning how to shoot, doing shoots, playing with your camera? And how much time have you spent learning how to build your business? We cannot expect the same results, okay, if we've spent 10 years learning how to shoot and we've spent 3 hours building our business. Okay, so just think about that. We have to actually learn how to build a business. And there's so much information on the internet. There's so many photographers that you can learn from. There's so many amazing apps and systems now that does half of the work for you. But you actually need to take the time to have it. Like something like an accounting program. I mean, I hate accounting, okay? I don't want to do any accounting. But I had to learn how to do, like, what does taxes mean? Okay, I don't think in Dubai you have tax, but anyway, in South Africa we do. And I had to learn what taxes mean and what does it mean to actually take a salary. I just don't live off all the money I make. I take a salary because I, as the artist, work for the company. That's the only way I can make sure my company is sustainable. And that's when you really become serious. So build systems and keep refining them. I make sure every winter when I go through a year's cycle, I reevaluate my business. I look at how much did I make, how much did I lose, how much did I spend, what apps am I using, do I actually still need them? How many of you guys have signed up for 1,000 apps and never unsubscribed to them? You're still paying for them. Okay, can I have a few hands here? No one. Are you guys all, like, you never sign up for any apps that you don't use? Okay, so just think about that stuff. Like every time you spend $9 or $10 on an app, you could have had a coffee and actually enjoyed it. Okay, so there's just like simple things. Building a business is very hard. It's not easy, and it can make you quite depressed, especially if you look at numbers all the time. So what I want to leave you with the business side is to celebrate the small wins. This can be anything. You have to celebrate when you get your first wedding booking and the client is actually paying you. Okay? You have to be happy when you got that shot that you've been wanting to get for such a long time. Okay? If social media is important to you, maybe every time you get your 100th follower, you like have a little celebration, go out for a burger or something. You know, like we have to have those moments during our career, because otherwise we want to go from point A to point Z, and it might take 20 years and half of us would have given up. So this is how I keep going, is celebrating the small wins. Okay. Who's scared of building a wedding business? You guys are very brave. Huh? Yes, there's one honest person in the audience. Amazing. Just out of interest, how many of you guys are doing wedding or are doing photography full-time? Like, are there any full-time photographers? Okay, and how many of you guys want to do photography full-time? Like, you want to actually build a business around it? Okay, quite a lot. Okay, so this part is not the fun part of the talk, but it's something you guys have to think about. Go read the E-Myth. It's really, really good. Okay, then the client. And here I have to read something for you. A customer is the most important visitor on our premises. He is not dependent on us. We are dependent on him. He is not an interruption in our work. He is the purpose of it. He's not an outsider in our business. He's part of it. We are not doing him a favor by serving him. He is doing us a favor by giving us the opportunity to do so. Okay. I 100% believe that this is true, and that is why my business, or my wedding business photography, my words, my wedding photography business is all about serving my clients. my clients don't want a couple shoot, I don't do the couple shoot. I don't have to do it. I don't have to do it for my portfolio. I do what they need me to do on the wedding. Okay, so I believe that if you have this approach, the doors will stay open, because if your client is unhappy with what you produced, you will want to learn from that because you want to do it better next time. So this, if you look at this approach, it also means that sometimes you're going to have to take pictures that's not necessarily your favorite or something that you will want to put on your website as portfolio, but it's telling their story. So what happened was a few months ago, I photographed a wedding in South Africa, and one of the guests came to me before. This is before the ceremony. The bride is still getting dressed. The groom and all the guests are standing outside having some drinks, and they waiting for the bride. And the one guest came to me and said to me, something is going to happen now. Be ready. Now that scares me, because I'm like, what does that mean? Is there going to be fireworks? Is there going to be a cake someone's going to jump out of? Or, you know, like, what does it mean? I have no clue. But all he said is, look there, something's going to happen. And okay, I ran there, had my camera 50 millimeter. I'm like, okay, you know, have everything ready. And out of a car, it wasn't out of a cake, but out of a car jumps a man. Okay. Now, if I show you wedding pictures, this is not the pictures I'm going to show you. Okay? If you ask me, show me Christine Meintjes' quality work, this is not what I'm going to show you. But this was a very important moment on that wedding, because this guy here is his best friend, but they had a big fight. And he stayed in Dubai and said he's not coming to the wedding. And then he arrived in a bag. Okay? Because he said he's not going to miss his best friend's wedding because they had an argument. Okay? And this is what unfolded. And this is the emotion that's happening. And I think as a wedding photographer, it's your job to make sure that you also incorporate that into the story. Even if it's not the best portfolio pictures or the photos that you love the most. It's making sure that the album and the photos that you present to the client has a lot of photos of the people. Because the people that are there are their best friends. It's the people that are important to them. It's not just about the bride and the groom. Okay? It's about the people having fun. It's about people taking selfies. It's about people waiting for the ceremony. And it's about the grandfather. Pictures like this have, in many cases, been sometimes the last pictures that was taken of that human, of that person. And I know that when I give people these photos, that I had the opportunity to give them a memory of that person when they were still alive, when they were happy. So make it your job to tell the full story and not just a part of it. This is the groom is making a speech, and he's saying thank you to his best man, and this is him standing up saying thank you. And I think this is an important photograph to incorporate. Friends having fun. Okay, so when you go out there and you create wedding pictures for your clients, I think a lot of people also ask me about how do I get the clients? Okay, I want to do this for my clients, but how do I actually get the clients? How do I market myself? Well, that's a very loaded question. There's lots of different answers to that. We don't have enough time to answer it. But the one thing I can tell you, and the one thought that I can leave with you is that it's not about the millions out there. You don't need 1 million or 100,000 or even 10,000 clients. You only need a handful. So it's really about the few that actually care about what you do. And for me, it was about that. It was about knowing what I want to do, putting it out there, and going and searching and looking for the people who care about what I do. Because those are the people who are willing to pay for my services. So it becomes way less stressful to build a business if I think about it in a way where I say, you know what, I don't need 100 brides or even 50 brides. I need 15 to 20 brides a year or grooms. That's all I need. Now it becomes doable. In your mind, it becomes something that's like, it's okay, you can actually do that. Okay. So don't let all of this scare you. I know the beginning is exciting, and then we get to all of this, and then everyone becomes very sad and very... No, it's really, really exciting. It's like a challenge, you know. And each one of you is going to do it differently, and I think that's the magic of it. And all you need to do is go out there and look for the people who actually are willing to pay for what you're doing. Okay, so my question to you is, how do we put all of this together? So I thought it would be quite nice to just quickly show you a real wedding I did basically 2 months ago. I'm just going to scroll through the photos and just to show you what the album will look like, because I've shown you a lot of portfolio photos and photos I really like, but as I said, for me at the end of the day, it's about putting it all together and not just that one specific photo. So this couple's name is Antimo and Sarah. They are amazing people. They live in Johannesburg. They're an Italian couple. And I'm going to show you the photographs, and I'll tell you a quick story afterwards. So this is the album that I've already laid out now, just to show you. She's getting ready with her bridesmaids. He's getting ready with his parents and the dad. So between portrait shots and I've also got detail shots, moments, I can't create that. I need to look for those moments where they're really laughing, having a good time, his best friends, the two dads. They had a very big entourage, or best men, bridesmaids. They had 10, so that's quite a lot. That's difficult to shoot. Making sure you get photos of the details as well as what's happening. That's her sister getting her ready, her bouquet, bridesmaids. And photos, obviously the formal photos with the parents. This is all happening before the ceremony, so we're still on our way to the ceremony. That's her dad. That's the two moms, and that's the dad seeing her for the first time. I didn't have enough time to go in there because I was behind her when she came out of the door there, so I thought, okay, I will get her detail and I will see his face in the background there. That's us. I showed you guys this photo earlier, so this is us walking towards the car, getting ready. This is happening at the church. They all went inside. She's arriving. I'm sorry. Something. Okay, she's arriving now, putting on the veil. His emotion, always very important to me, not just the bride and the dad walking down the aisle, but also the emotion of the groom. I can't always be at the same place twice, so what Ian and I do, he's in the front or at the back, depending on how the setup works, and I'm getting the one shot and he's getting the other shot. Okay, so always make sure that one person is capturing the groom's face. Changing from one emotion to the next emotion. Her arriving, you can see I'm shooting over his shoulder so that I can see him in the photo. This is the church ceremony. And through all of this, I'm trying to not be the person that's like obstructing everything and running in the front here where all the people. I'm shooting from different angles so that people don't really see me, but I can still show them the photos afterwards. So everyone's going outside, and then I get one shot of them in the front. Because there's so many, I didn't know how we were going to take a picture outside because the space is quite limited, so I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to get that. I'm down here, so I'm getting the shots here. Ian is upstairs, and he's getting this shot for me. Okay, so while he's getting this shot, I'm already at the door, and then I'm getting this shot of them walking out with the confetti. Happy moments. They are Italian, so they left in a little Fiat, small car. And now we go to the reception, the drinks and the party happening there, music. And we go off and do the couple shoot. Available light only. Okay, available light only, here and there using a reflector. Some harsher light, using some harsher light where we've got some shadows everywhere. Here we're using a reflector in the front to get this soft light. Shooting into the light. happy moments, looking for those happy moments that you cannot stage. Okay, you have to say things. Okay, I'm not funny at all, so I can't make jokes. So I need to to ask them things or tell them things and hope that they will laugh or smile. This is my favorite light. I don't mind the lens flares that I get there. That for me is not a problem. I'm not going to edit it out. Some photographers will edit it out. I mean, that's easy to edit out. But for me, that's part of showing the tools you're using. You know, I quite like that effect. If you like what you see, you have to come to Cape Town to experience it. They arrive. Now here, it becomes tricky because we're losing light. It's almost completely dark now. I have almost no more light, and I'm shoot with available light only. So we quickly put up 2 lights on this side and on that side to get the family portraits. Because they said to me, when we arrive, we give you 2 minutes to do these pictures, and then we want to walk in. We don't want time to set up or anything like this. So it was very quick. It's not my favorite way of shooting, to be honest. But they wanted the mountain in. That for them was important, so we did it this way. It's not my personal favorite, but that's what happens if you don't have any light left. This is what's happening inside the reception. So we shot this before we went to the ceremony. So I'm working my timeline out so that I can get all the flowers and all the details. Sometimes you actually need a 3rd photographer to capture this. At this wedding, I did get someone to help me with some of these pictures. And then the party starts. And this is the fun photos of the guests and the friends, and you know, where they do the speeches. And it was difficult, this one, because they had a lot of light, a lot of candle light, and not a lot of other light. So I had to make sure I'm always shooting from an angle where the light, the candles are actually lighting their faces. Emotion, very important. All the speeches. So here you can see I do the color pictures. I always make sure that my clients get the color pictures, but my favorites are the black and whites. So I always give a combination. Family, laughing, different kind of angles, cutting the cake, and the dancing. Okay, so that is what the client will receive afterwards. It's a 100 to 150 page album. And I'm going to close off with this thought. The art of wedding photography is to tell a beautiful story through gorgeous photos, despite the lighting, the environment, the budget, all the emotion of uncontrollable circumstances, and to keep the client happy while doing so. If you do that, you have mastered the art of wedding photography. Yeah, so that's it from me. Thoughts around wedding photography and a little bit about my work. I also, as promised, there's my website. If you want to go and look at my kit, my photography kit, what I use. You can also see my workshops. I do one Christine Meintjes signature workshop per year in South Africa. I have people from all over the world that have come there, some people even from Dubai, so you guys are welcome to look at that. I also have a newsletter that you can sign up for if you want to know when I'm going to do talks wherever in the world. And I also do Lightroom presets. So for those of you guys who do use Lightroom, I have a set of presets. And if you use HIPAA, you will get till the end of the month on the full combo bundle, you will get a 15% discount. Okay, so feel free to use that. And yeah, that's it from me. So if you guys have any questions or if anything stood out for you, you're welcome to ask questions. I think there's going to be a mic, I think. Just give me a second.
Hi.
Hi.
So I had a question since I do weddings as well, a lot of events. But a lot of photographers and from people I've heard that if you're going for a wedding, right, say if it's an Indian wedding or any different culture wedding, you should know, like what they say is if you say if you're getting married, I should know about your culture a little bit so it's easier to
Yes.
shoot and you know what angles. But is that true or generally you?
I think that's very true. Yeah, I think culture is what makes us. Each one of us comes from a different background. And I think when clients come to me, within the first meeting that we have, I always ask them things like, how did you meet? What do you do? Etc. And I think to find out more about a person is very important so that you can understand them and understand what is important to them. And I think culture plays a huge role. So if I'm shooting an Indian wedding or if I'm shooting a Greek wedding or whatever culture, I need to understand the basics of it. I might not know everything, but I think it's important to go and read up about it, or then maybe ask photographers that have shot those kind of weddings. You know, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable, what is going to happen through the ceremony, how many guests to expect. Because coming from South Africa, where I'm shooting a lot of Western weddings, you know, I shoot most of the time weddings that are 100 to 200 people. A lot of my weddings from Europe are less than 100 people. It's like 60, 70. It's very small. But I have shot weddings where it was 600 people. For me, that was the first time really, really difficult because I didn't even understand how are we going to get pictures of all the people, etc. So because I did my research, I spoke to the clients and I said to them, okay, this is how I normally work, but to get the same quality pictures of all the people, etc., I need to book 3 other photographers. So the price is going to have to be much more because I need more photographers to do it. If you don't do this and you don't understand the culture, I think it's going to be a situation where you're going to look back and you wish you did it. So I think it is important. It doesn't mean that you need to be in that culture, but I think it's important to understand it.
And about the lightings, what you're saying that you shoot.
Sorry, I didn't. Just
About
keep
the
it.
lightings, what you're saying that you usually try to shoot towards the window where you get the natural light, but then you're still using some lights as well, right? Or no?
No, I'm only using reflectors, like a reflector. It's most of the time the only thing I'm using. The only time when I do use lights is at the reception.
So you generally don't have.
No lights. No. I feel that for me, when I have too much lighting setups happening in the beginning of the day, I feel that it's actually prohibiting me from doing what I need to do. And because of all the equipment, I feel that people start feeling that it's like a production and it's not just their wedding day. But that's my personal opinion. You know, you don't have to do it that way.
Thank you so much.
Okay, pleasure.
Hello. Yeah, here.
Oh, there we go.
Welcome
Sorry,
back.
there's a few mics going around, so yeah, just put up
Okay,
your hand
sorry.
if you
There's
start
someone
talking. No, it's fine. You can go, and then
Okay.
we can go there.
Actually, it's not one question, it's two. So I believe that photography is all about relationship. So when it comes to relationship, I need you to like give us a showcase. Like the first one for over than 400 weddings that you have done. Absolutely, there is 1% of unsatisfied some complaints. Can give us an example what happened and how you
Oh, I
managed
have
this?
many.
Ah, okay, great. So that's one
You know-
second. Yeah. Second one, if you get a wedding request and you are fully booked, so you are dealing with other photographers, or you just saying no, I'm booked because you don't want to lose this kind of relation. That's it,
Okay.
yeah.
First of all, I agree 100% with you. I think business in general, not just photography, is about relationships and it's about people. People don't do business with business, they do business with people. Okay, so behind every business, there's people. And so I completely agree with you. In terms of, I'm first going to answer your second question because that's the easier one. Yes, I don't have associate photographers. I have a signature brand, so it's only me. But I do have good relationships with other photographers. So it's very important to me that when my clients are asking me to shoot their wedding and I'm busy, that I will recommend the right kind of photographer to them. And this is all budget dependent because you're getting photographers all, with different budgets. So I normally ask them. Some people even come to me and say, listen, we love to book you. You're not in our budget. Can you, recommend someone? And I really don't have a problem with recommending other photographers. So I have a good network of people I trust, and not just liking their work, but again, liking them as a human being and knowing they will deliver and knowing that if I do recommend them, that won't be disappointing to the client. So yes, I do recommend to other photographers. And then, sorry? Yeah, and there's no kickback, like, you know, I'm making 10% of their bookings or anything like that. It's just pure relationship, because I believe that when I'm recommending some photographers, it will happen with me again, you know, and it's happened numerous times. A lot of the weddings I've shot in other countries even, where my clients are flying me all the way from South Africa to shoot the wedding in Europe, has happened because I have recommended some weddings to other people. So I believe relationship is the key. Regarding unsatisfied clients, okay, I think first of all, working with people is not easy. In general, people are not easy. And we all have certain preferences, and we all have certain expectations when we are going to a restaurant or we are buying something from a store. You have a certain expectation. So I think the first thing as a photographer, it's very important to make sure that you can actually match up to the expectation of what you're putting out there. That would be my first thought, because if you are putting out there on your website and social media that you've been around for 20 years, you know exactly what you're doing, etc., but you've only shot 2 weddings in your life, you're actually putting out an expectation that you will not meet, which means that you will probably have way less people who are satisfied with your service. So I believe in honesty as well, and incorporating that in how I work. For instance, I'm pregnant now, so I didn't feel well for the first few weeks, and I actually had a lot of deadlines. I was very honest with my clients, and I told them the situation. They were all very accommodating, and they said, don't worry, don't stress, you know, we can sort this out later. And I think if you incorporate that, you are increasing the odds of not having this problem. But in life, we will always face situations that's not nice. So for the purposes of this being live streamed, I cannot give you all the details because some of my clients might be watching. So I can tell you this. I think it's not easy to satisfy people who can never be satisfied. Okay? I think that there is certain people that just don't have the attitude of wanting to feel this is amazing, and they make your life difficult. I try and make sure that I have a contract and that I stick to the facts. Okay? If I have missed the facts and what I promised you for the service, I'm sorry, and I need to compensate for that, whether that is a different shoot or whether that is in some way. If I matched up to what I said I was going to do on the day, then we have a different problem, and it's probably an emotional problem. But I think if you have a contract, you're going to be very safe. But yes, it's make sure you have everything on pen on paper. If you're taking a phone call with an unhappy client, make sure you're listening to them, saying sorry, and then you follow up with an email of everything that was said, because you want to make sure you have everything on paper. I know that's only half of what you want to hear, but I can't, in this situation, say everything. Oh, sorry?
My question is for the CEO, not the artist. Okay?
Yes.
I want to know, do you have any pricing formulation for each event, depend on the high season, low season, number of people? And what is the pricing method that you are following with your customer? This is something I just would like to highlight on.
Yes. Pricing is always a question amongst photographers. I've had a lot of photographers come to me with a portfolio, and they ask me to look at the portfolio, evaluate the portfolio, and say, according to this portfolio, how much can I charge? I personally don't think it works that way. I think there's a few basic principles you have to look at. Certain things like your lifestyle. You know, some people they don't need the income, so they're not going to charge higher prices. You know, some people have way less living expenses. If you live in a specific place like Dubai, I mean, coffee or a sandwich here costs 6 times the price that it costs in South Africa. You know, so this is very difficult. You cannot tell someone this is what you should be charging, etc. The principles I do work according is that I have set specific pricing that I feel I'm value at, like I feel this is the value, and I've obviously looked around the world because I charge global prices. So I kind of look at what other people charge, and I think, okay, I feel comfortable with this bracket. If you start putting your pricing out there, this is my tip. in terms of pricing. I can't tell you a number, but if you're putting your pricing out there and no one is booking you, it either means you're too expensive or it means no one knows about you. And you need to figure out which one you're going to work on, or it could be both. Okay? It doesn't mean that you're too expensive. It could mean that just no one knows about you. So you need to work on the marketing maybe. But for me, it's like I'm willing to work for this specific amount. That is what I'm valued at. And if I can find people, my tribe, you know Seth Godin, the book he wrote about finding your tribe, I feel like this is what I'm valued at, and I find people that are willing to pay that, then I feel you've got a match. I do believe that it's very important to make sure that when your clients leave and they get the album afterwards, they should feel like they would have paid double. They should never feel like this was too much money. And that is the magic. Within that, you have to make it work. So I don't have a specific dirham value for you, but those are my thoughts when it comes to pricing.
Hi. I just want to ask two questions.
Yes.
The first one is regarding the process. Is what we do if we feel like we're stuck in that level, and you feel like the more pictures that you take, it's the same thing. There is nothing new. There is not. So what we can do in this?
To move to the next place. Wow, that's not easy. I think you shouldn't stop. That's the first thing. Because many times, you know, I come from a family where we love food. Okay, we love eating, we love making food. My mom loves cooking. And I always think, you know, in examples of pictures. So let me give you this example. If you bake the cake, okay, I give you a recipe for a chocolate cake, and you bake the cake once, and it's not great. And then you say, I'm going to try again. You bake the cake again. It's maybe a little bit better, but it's not the same. It's not great. Are you going to stop there? You're going to try again and try again and try again. Okay, maybe you need to do things a little bit differently. So maybe you need to tell yourself, okay, maybe today I'm just going to shoot with one lens. You know, prime lenses like a 50 millimeter makes it very difficult to not be creative because you can't zoom. You can't stand here and zoom in and out and get the landscape and the portrait. 50 millimeter, you have to do the work. You know, you have to go closer, you have to go further, things like that. So maybe changing things up a little bit or making it very difficult for yourself, like very bad lighting or something like that. It will help you to learn because we learn in the difficult situations, not in the easy ones. So maybe that will help.
Thank you.
Okay,
The second question is for dealing with people. Like during the party itself, there is many people, they will come to you and ask you, take our photos. So
Yes.
how do you deal with those people and how do you respond? Because for me, I cannot say no to someone during.
Okay, so that makes my answer easy. You need to learn how to say no. No, that's the one part. The other part I think that's important is also to learn how to have a midway. So not to be rude and say no to everyone because I don't think that's the right answer, but also not to say yes to everyone because then you will never have time to do your real work. So maybe you do 1 or 2 pictures of people, and then I have had big weddings, like big African weddings, 600 people, you know, and in their culture, they have to have a picture of every single person. So with that, now I have to, and I know you're laughing because there's, I think some of you are also shooting weddings where you have to take a picture of every. In that situation, maybe it makes sense to bring a second photographer and incorporate it in your pricing and say, okay, this is the picture person that's doing just the pictures of everyone, and I'm doing the rest, something like that. But we have to find a midway. Many times I will tell people I'm doing the pictures, but unfortunately I have to go now because I have to take pictures of a couple, you know, because they are the people who have booked you. But if the couple expects a picture of everyone, I think it's important that you can incorporate that and maybe have another photographer. Okay. Okay, you guys will stop me if time is up, hey? Okay.
Hi. I've seen so many pictures in black and white. Do you agree with your clients about this? Or if they don't like it, do you change it to color later?
Yes, so my clients always get every picture in color. So they will have every photograph in color. and then I change a few pictures in black and white. The only reason you see a lot of black and whites is because I personally love them. So that's just my personal preference. But I have had weddings where I feel the photo really doesn't work in color, then I will only give them a black and white version, especially some of the reception pictures. But if my clients ask me to give it to them in color, it's not a problem. I save my Lightroom catalog in such a way it's very quick to open, change, and then I send it to them.
What about video? Does anybody ask you for to do video also?
I sometimes get requests, but I don't do video, so it's not part of my package. In South Africa, it's very known that you are either photos or video. There's very few companies that are doing it together. So, yeah, in general.
So you don't have team to do videography?
No, but I have a lot of video friends that I will recommend, yeah, and we always working together. Okay, just wait till the mic gets to you. Okay.
It's related to the previous
Sure.
question. Sorry. How do you choose the photos together with your client?
For the album?
Or you just send them the whole pack of the photos that you take, or
Okay, so
how
I
it
use
works?
I use a online gallery preview system called PixieSet. So I send the clients the pictures and they can have a look at it, and then
as is, right? As is.
no, edited.
Edited.
Edited. So my clients never see an unedited picture. I send them edited pictures, and depending on the package they booked, they get a specific amount. So 300, 400, 600, depending on the wedding. Okay, then they will go through the pictures, and I give them the opportunity. They can either pick the pictures themselves, because sometimes brides like themselves in a certain way, and I will pick a picture from the side and they don't like it or whatever. But I always give them the opportunity first to pick the pictures. If they pick the pictures, I will use that for the album. But most of my clients, they tell me, you know what, you choose. We don't want to choose because we don't know what to choose. And, you know, that's not their expertise. And then once I've created the album, I will send them a preview. They will then approve it, or they will ask for some changes. Maybe I used a picture of a guest. I don't know who the person is. But it's not like a close friend. They will change it rather to the best friend, and they'll tell me.
Basically, you send them more than what they ask for, right?
Yes, always.
All right, thank you.
Always over-deliver. Under-promise, over-deliver.
Hi. Now I wanted to ask about something regarding the beginners, the
Yes, sure.
wedding photographers beginners. Okay, now I'm just starting with it. And not working with the very expensive prices because I don't have that much of profile to show to people.
Yes.
But still, when you start to raise your prices after getting more experience, people start to get annoyed that they think that you're greedy or you're looking for more money because you know that, okay, before you made it for a customer with a less price. So why are you raising your prices for us? So how to start raising your prices in a logical way that doesn't annoy your customers, and in the same way you are getting the price which you deserve for your work.
Okay, definitely good question. My first question to you is, do you like to pay for this water? If you paid for this water 1 dirham today, do you like to pay it 5 dirham tomorrow? Okay, none of us like to give out money. Okay, we don't like to pay more. So this is something you have to know about your clients. In any business, people always want to pay less than what you're charging them. Okay, that's the basic principle. However, I think that you have to remember when you're starting out as a photographer, you are in a specific price range. You are attracting specific clients. Okay, now you want to go to another level. It's like I don't know if this is a good example, but you are the H&M, and now you want to be the, I don't know, think of a brand. You know? So you want to go from H&M to Dior, okay? The people who shop at H&M is not the same people who are shopping at Dior. You are marketing your Dior prices to the H&M shoppers. They're not going to accept it. So you have to not just change the pricing, but you also have to change the profile of the person you're approaching. You have to change all the work you did for how many years of getting these people is going to start all over again over here. So you cannot expect these people to pay those prices because they're not going to They're not going to be the same people. That's from the marketing point of view, okay? The other side you have to think of, I don't, from a logical point of view, why should you charge more? If you are a start-out person, you don't have I don't know, I have to think in your money, and I don't know how to think in your money, but in rand value, for instance, my currency, if I start out, I start with a 20,000 rand kit. But now you at a R500,000 kit. You know, it's not the same investment you made in your company. So to pay for that, the insurance, in South Africa people steal things. So everything has been stolen in my life, okay? Everything, I'm not kidding you. So if I didn't have insurance, I wouldn't have a business today. So I have to pay for insurance. I have to pay for that kit. I have to pay for my education, okay? I have to pay for a lot of things in this Dior business. Like if you look at the packaging, that when you go to Dior, you know when they put it in all this packaging, all of that costs money. But when you were the H&M, they give you the paper bag that they print 50 billion of. You know what I'm saying? So that business is different to this business. So you cannot expect the pricing to be the same, because here you are paying for something completely different. And here you are not paying just for the clothing. You're paying for the experience. So you need to make sure that your clients understand that. Your clients are not just paying for the product. They are paying for everything that comes with it, which is a lot more. And if it's not a lot more, you should ask yourself, are you trying to sell H&M at your prices? Because that's also not right.
Sure. Now, do you suggest a person to start, to wait till he gets the best experience so he can get that Dior prices, for example? Or if you want just you start,
I think it's safer to go like that. I think someone once told me, it's just a silly example, but I think it makes sense. She said that she thinks photographers should charge more with every shoot they do.
Yeah, I do.
Because every shoot, not more like 100,000s. I'm talking about like a little bit more. Because with every shoot you do, you gain experience, you become better, you learn. This person, number 100 in the line, has benefited from all the 100 weddings you already shot. You know, so that makes sense to me. It's not practical, but the thinking is important. Okay. Okay, one more, I think they said. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Following up on the business line, I've been asked personally by friends and relatives to take free photos. So as a full-time professional photographer, how do you deal with such a situation? Do you agree with them, or pay half the price, or what?
I believe in free shoots, okay? It's not necessarily something everyone believes in, but I believe in free shoots in specific situations, because when I started out, I wouldn't have had the marketing and people knowing my brand as well if I didn't do free shoots. Because if you're starting out, you want people to know about you and you want people to see your work. So how are you going to get work if you don't do shoots? Now, if you're going to sit at home waiting for people to pay you, you're going to have a quarter of the portfolio of the guy who's willing to do free shoots. So what I would do in that situation is I would say, if you are still in the process where you feel you're learning a lot, I will use it as a learning experience, but I will also use it as a marketing experience. So I won't. Free is a very bad word, actually, because free makes it feel like you give everything and they get everything, okay? Which I never believe in. I always believe it should be a balance. So I would say, okay, I will happily shoot this birthday party of your first baby or whatever for free, but I would not say free. I would say I will shoot it in exchange for you to put it on Facebook and tell your friends. Or if you like the pictures afterwards, it would be great if you can tell some of your friends, because I'm trying to build a portfolio. Or, okay, I will happily shoot all these pictures for you, but I'm allowed to use them on my website, or I'm allowed to use them for marketing. So that's where the exchange happens, right? So I think this can be taken across the board, even for full-time photographers, where I have done shoots before where the exchange was not money, but the value of the exchange was worth it, whatever that means. You know, exposure, the getting into the right circles, whatever. So, yeah, I think free shoots is sometimes looked upon by photographers thinking, but I don't get anything out of it. But you don't always need money. Sometimes you can get something else. Okay. Huh? Are we done? Okay. Okay. Before they go, can I just take a selfie, like
Yes,
with everyone?
yes, we will take a group photo anyway.
Okay, this is a very bad selfie, but just for social media. Okay, everyone look happy. Yay!
Yeah, just wait a little bit because we will take another selfie here.
Okay, they'll take a
thank
professional
you
one.
Very much for coming every time and supporting HIPAA as we are, and as we love to support you as well. Come, please, let us take a group photo. You are in the middle here, and there is a thank you certificate for you as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome.
And thank you for coming, guys. I know you're all tired.
Grouped, you can take a selfie.
Okay, thank you.
Come a little bit.
Yeah, no, sorry, yeah.
To clean the lens. People, please don't forget to take your certificates before leaving. And make it quick, please. We want to go home. Oh, my God.